an uphill task, but at least that hill is still there.
Yeah, definitely, and that's the way they should perceive it, because it's a situation where they really need to put up a lot of runs and hope that they can really get Bangladesh all out as soon as possible. But in hindsight, when you look at it, they don't really have anybody else to blame but themselves. They, if they turned up to the tournament at an earlier stage than they actually did after that India game, things wouldn't be as hard as it is for Pakistan.
Yeah, I remember Zahir talking about that first game of the tournament when West Indies blew them away. We were saying, yes, it's early days in the tournaments, 2 points for West Indies, 0 points for Pakistan, but that net run rate could cost them, and it has.
And that first match, yes, and that kept them behind in the World Cup. So they were always going to be catching up with things.
Yeah.
And here today in the last match again, they were looking at, okay, what kind of equation they can have to go through, because always dependent on the other results, and that's something which was expected from them. But important thing is considering the kind of in between tumble which they have on the points table with regard to their form and in terms of the intent which was not shown, that they've recovered well. So that's something they should take pride in and look to finish on 11 points. I think finishing on 11 points is something which is the most important thing according to me. Whether you qualify, don't qualify, that's fine. They had the opportunity against New Zealand as well. There can be 10 things you can look back and say that, okay, we could have done that. But the first and foremost is to get a win under your belt, get to that 11 point, and then look back and see what are the positives, what are the negatives, what we could have done differently, how we can plan for the next World Cup, because this is pretty much done. I think today, if you're talking about Pakistan scoring 450, then that means the wicket is a really good track. And to get people out unless you have luxury of having completely different wicket for the first innings and then give completely different wicket for the second innings.
Wouldn't they like
that? That is something which will give them a chance apart from winning the toss. So the winning the toss was important, because all these talks would have gone out of the window if they were fielding first. But now the fact that they are batting first, yes, they should get as many as possible. But the chances of this happening is very slim. The 300 run margin is huge margin.
39 all out.
Exactly. 350 is a kind of total you can say that yes, it's possible.
That's a possible score.
And then if you were saying maybe 150 run margin, again, you can think about it. But the only thing that looks feasible is if 450 and then 321 runs, but those are just massive numbers to put on the board. But Zahir mentioned 10 things to look back on. I think, yes, there may be 10 things, but of them, 2 things would be critical. We mentioned one of them, Pakistan, West Indies. That's how the tournament started for them. 105 all out, just 21 overs. They looked as if they hadn't even turned up to the tournament. And at that point, West Indies looked as if, whoops, dark horses. They're in the semi-finals. All of us had put them in the semis that day. Second game, the big one. India versus Pakistan. Yes, there may be a gulf between the two teams in terms of pure talent on the field, but it was the margin of victory again. 89 runs with Duckworth-Lewis. Without Duckworth-Lewis, it could have been even larger. So I think these are the two they look back on, and there was, of course, a lot of backlash, be it social media or back home for them. The one thing in their favour is they bounced back well, and their results after that have been magnificent. If only.
Yeah, that's what they're going to feel. I think they're going to feel hard done by also that abandoned game against Sri Lanka. They would have given themselves a great chance to win that game because they were coming off a big win against England. So that would have meant a lot for them. So that game could also be a difference. Yes, we drew a lot of parallels to 1992, but that game was critical for them. I think that game, if they played that game and gone ahead and won it, they again wouldn't have found themselves in that situation. They would have probably been in a better mindset when they came to play against India. So they would have been a little more confident, a little more turned on, and they would have been even more competitive. I don't think the result would have been any different, but it wouldn't have been as embarrassing as it was for them in that game. But having said that, I think both teams will play for pride. I think both teams will want to finish the tournament on a high. They wouldn't want to go out there and just because Pakistan's not going to qualify. It's not like I think they'll go out there and just play lacklusterly. But I think they'll go out there and play really good cricket and be a great game to watch.
One more I'll bring in there, the game against Australia. because we gave them such a good chance because they had restricted Australia. Remember, they got 5 for 50 in those last 10 overs when Australia were batting, and they had a good chance when they were chasing, and they lost 5 wickets between 26 and 50. And just have a look at this. This is again another key factor. Between 26 and 40, 94 for 5 while they were in control of the game. So this is another one of the game.
So after that only they made that change, isn't it? Getting Harris Sohail back in that batting lineup, because that was a concern, and this was something which had not happened once. It had happened a couple of times in the similar passage of play. They had lost wickets, and that's something which brought about the change in the batting lineup. They've tried Asif Ali to start with. Shoaib Malik was there, and then as they went along after a few matches in the tournament, they figured that okay, what is the right kind of playing 11. So now last 4 games, so including this one, they've not made any changes in the playing 11. So that's something which is another indicator of how teams go about it. When do you change team? When someone is not in form, or there is a forced change.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you don't see teams changing playing 11s. Maybe one tactical change, but you won't see too many changes in playing 11. We've seen it with New Zealand also.